first question in P4 says, find the slope. Who remembers how to find the slope? I am 100% confident that you guys, somebody anyhow, remembers how to find slope. Don't let me down. Brennan?
Is it x2 minus x1 and then over y2 minus y1?
You are so close, you actually have it upside down. So slope is the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. Now, I don't know how you will remember that, not to get it mixed up. You have to do y over x. I remember it because when I set up my Cartesian coordinate plane, isn't the y over the x? That's how I remember it. Slope is y over x. So, it doesn't matter if these are the ones and these are the twos, or that backwards, it doesn't matter, but you have to go in the same order. So in other words, if I do 8 minus 2, that's my y's, then I have to do 6 minus negative 1. You okay? You see what I'm saying? Now, the answer is going to be 6 over 7. If I did it the other way, it would be 2 minus 8 over negative 1 minus 6, and I would get exactly the same answer. All right, what about the second one? Give that one a try. What's the slope in B? M is the letter we use for slope. I'm not sure why, I'm sure there's a reason, you can Google it, but M means slope. Okay? So what did you come up with here? Anybody get an answer? What'd you get? -1. She got -1. Anybody else get -1 as your answer? Yeah? So, I don't know, I'll go the other way this time. 10 minus 1 over -3 minus 6. 9 over -9, very good. Very, very good. Now, what if we have our 2 points and we know that the slope is 3/4, but we're missing part of our point? Okay, so do you understand the situation? We have our 2 points. We know the slope is 3/4, but we're missing this, and we have to figure it out. Do you have an idea? Could we use this right here to help us? Yeah, I think we can. I think we can. So, in other words, if I do 6 minus 5, that's y minus y, over x minus 4, wouldn't that be how I would find slope? Y minus y, x minus x? But I know that the slope equals 3/4. Right? So what's 6 minus 5? So 1 over x minus 4 equals 3/4. Anybody know how to solve that? How do we solve something like that? What do we do? Cross multiply. This is a proportion. That's a fraction equal to a fraction. And when you have a fraction equal to a fraction, you cross multiply. So this way, it would be 4. 4 times 1. Now be careful here. What is it this way? 3x minus 12. Very good. That's a distributive. So 4 times 1 equals 3 times x minus 4. Then we'll just solve it like regular equation. So we'll add 12. And divide by 3. So x ends up equaling 16/3. Alright, let's see about the next one. It's the same kind of thing. Let's see if we can sort that one out. So we have 3, -2, and 1y. And we know our slope is -2/3. All right, who can set this up for us?
Y minus 2.
Okay, so y, actually it would be y minus -2. So y minus -2 over 1 minus 3 equals -2/3. Now, you might have done this in a different order, and that's okay. He did this one minus this one. You could have done this one minus this one. It doesn't make any difference. I like his a lot. What about that numerator? What's that? Well, how can I rewrite that?
Y
1 + 2. And how about this guy?
-2.
-2. Now what do we do after we get it cleaned up a little bit? Now what should we do? Cross multiply. So it doesn't matter what you do first. If I do this times this, if I go this way, that's gonna be 3y plus 6. Remember, that's a quantity, so you have to distribute it. And that's actually going to equal +4. -2 times -2. Remember, when the fraction is -2/3, you can put the negative on the top or the bottom, but not both. So I chose to put my negative on my 2. All right, so then I'll subtract 6. So 3y is -2, and actually y ends up equaling -2/3. Does that make sense to you? All right, now we're gonna do, and you've done this before, but we're gonna do an incredibly important thing. We're gonna write the equation of a line. And I'm going to change that first point. So if you would, on your paper, change that first point to -2, 12. I want to avoid a bunch of ugly arithmetic. So we're going to change that first point to -2, 12. And we're going to write the equation of the line through those 2 points, and we're going to use the point slope form. Now, does that sound familiar to you, point slope? Okay, anybody remember what it is? It happens to be my personal favorite. The point slope form is this. You might want to write this in the margin. Now, no one ever asks you for the formula. I'm never going to ask you to write a formula, but you have to be able to use it. So you have to know what it looks like and understand how it works. In this equation, what do you think the M stands for? Slope. So the very first thing you're going to do is find the slope. You got to have a slope. So we just practiced that. How do we find the slope? What are we going to do? Set up my fraction for me. What's it going to be? 4 minus 12. If you want to go this way, that's fine. 4 minus 12 over 6 minus -2, or 6 plus 2.
Yeah.
So that's -8 over 8, or another one, -1. So now when I do my equation, I know that the number that's going in here is -1. Now, back earlier when we first were talking about slope, didn't we label our points? Like this one was first point and this one was second point? Does it matter which one is the first point and which one is the second point? No, that's irrelevant. So, in the equation, you need to put in the coordinates of one of your points. It doesn't have to be the first one, although it can be. It's either one. You're gonna put either one in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick this one because there aren't any negatives in it. So y minus 4, I'm letting this one be the 1 point. This one then is the 2 point. Doesn't matter, it's totally irrelevant, doesn't matter. So y minus my y equals -1 x minus my x. Remember doing that? Oh my gosh, you guys did that over and over and over again. Who'd you have for second year algebra? Last year, who was your teacher last year? Mr. Miller?
I had both.
Who was the other one?
Mr. Ludington.
Who?
Ludington.
Oh, Miss Ludington? You guys had awesome teachers last year, and they did this over and over and over again with you. All right, so here we go. What do you think I'm gonna do next? This is my setup, it's beautiful. What do you think I'm gonna do next? Distribute over here, so y minus 4 equals, okay, -x. Now you can write 1x if you want. -x plus 6. And then we'll do one more thing, we'll add 4 to both sides. So our final answer is y equals -x plus 10. And that's the equation of the line. That's all there is to it. Isn't that easy? All right, let's try the next one. I'm gonna change one of these numbers too, because I don't want you to be messed up with, the fractions. Just give me a second here.
Wait, are we doing 3B or 4A?
We're doing 3B.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna change a point real quick, and if I don't, we're gonna end up with, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna change our points. We're doing 3B, and sorry about this, but I want you to change your points to 3, 3, and 5, -5. Let's see how this works. 3, 3, and 5, -5, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing. So this is problem 3B. We're writing the equation of the line, and we are using the point slope form. All right, so what's step 1? Find the slope. So slope is y minus y over x minus x. I'm sorry, I'm gonna check my phone. My nephew, 15 years old, was at football practice. Oh, God bless him. I'm so sorry to do this, but they're operating on him today. He's going to be fine. His heart started, doing funny things and, but they figured out what's wrong and they're gonna operate on him today. So he's gonna be fine, 15 years old. Carter is his name. If you wanna say a little prayer for him during the day, that would be great. He's my brother's son. Okay, so y minus y, x minus x. All right, here we go. I got what? -8 over 2, -4. Now, you get to pick a point. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Pick one of your 2 points, and that's what you're gonna plug in these spots. It doesn't matter which one, so whichever one looks easiest to you, use that one. You're gonna get the same answer no matter what. So I like to avoid negatives if possible, so I'm gonna use that point. So this is my x1 and y1 then. So just plugging in my formula, it will be y minus 3 equals -4, x minus 3 also. When we say we're using the point slope form, this is the approach we're going for. All right, so now what? What happens next?
Distribute.
We're gonna distribute. We'll add 3. Did you get -4x plus 15? All right, are we okay with point slope? All right. Now we're gonna do exactly the same thing, but we're using a different format. So again, I don't like these points either, so I'm gonna change them. I'm sorry about this. I just don't wanna do a bunch of fraction arithmetic today. Let's change the first point to 0.5. So we'll make the first point 0.5. All right, here we go. What's slope intercept form? That's not point slope, that's, we already did that. What's that one, Caius?
Y equals mx plus b.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That is the slope intercept form of the line. This is called slope intercept. All right. Now notice, it's called slope intercept. It has an M in it. So we're gonna start exactly the same way. We're gonna start by finding the slope. To write the equation of a line, no matter how you're doing it, you gotta have the slope. So we always start by finding slope. So 1 minus 5, 4 minus 0. It looks like our slope is -1. Now, while we're just doing these basics, I'm trying to avoid fractions, but do you see how easy it would be to come up with a fractional slope? Yeah, and then you just have to deal with the arithmetic. You do everything the same way. Now, at this point, we're gonna plug in like we did before. So again, you're gonna pick one of your points. It doesn't matter which one. Pick whichever one you want. And then you're gonna plug in, so let's say I pick this point, okay? If I pick that point, then I plug 0 into my X position and 5 into my Y position. So that would look like 5 equals -1 times 0 plus B. Now, there's nothing to plug in for B. Your X and Y come from your point. M is your slope, which you've already figured out. Now you're gonna solve this, and I got B equal to 5. Did I do that right? So then I go back to my equation. Now I know what M is. Now I know what B is, so I can write my equation. Y equals negative 1x plus 5. And again, you don't need the 1. If you'd rather write just negative x, that's fine. All right, one more.
I did mine a different way.
Uh-huh.
I did mine the way where you just go through the point slope.
Mhm.
And
And
I
of
got
course,
the
you got
same-
exactly the same answer, right? The difference is that it's the procedure. There's two different methods we need to know how to do. So you know how to do point slope. You're kind of doing it on your own. I want you to practice this a little bit, where you actually find the y-intercept, where you find B. Okay? So you're exactly right. Did you hear Brennan's question? He said, Miss Ford, I did it a different way and I got the same answer. Yes, there's only one answer to this question. No matter how we do it, we're gonna get y equals negative x plus 5. So it's the strategy that's important. You're a point sloper. He likes that the best, so do I. But unfortunately, part of our curriculum is we practice both ways. Okay, let's practice one more this way. Let's try it this way now. You might have a favorite like Brennan does, and that's awesome. But right now, let's practice both ways. Use slope intercept. All right, so what's step one? Here are our 2 points. Find the slope. 2 minus negative 2, 1 minus negative 3. Let me double check my math. 2 minus negative 2, 1 minus negative 3. Perfect. What's this slope work out to be? I got 1. 2 minus negative 2 is 4, and 1 minus negative 3 is also 4. Now, I'm doing it with point slope. I'm doing it with slope intercept. So my strategy is I start with this framework right here. This is what I start with. I'm gonna plug in the 1 right here. And then what am I gonna put in for the x and the y? One of my points, and I would probably use that one, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. So if I use that one, remember, this is x, this is y. So 2 equals 1 times 1 plus b. So 2 equals 1 plus b, and b equals 1. So my answer is y equals 1x plus 1.
Can you do that again? Like, can you just go through your process again?
Yep, so I start with this. Right, this is my format. I've already figured out the slope is 1, so there's gonna be a 1 right there where the slope is. Then I pick a point, just like I did the other time. I pick a point. I'm gonna pick that one. In my general equation, I put y in for y and x in for x. And then I can figure out what my b is. So I figured out that b was 1. So m is 1, b is 1. So I go back to this right here, and I plug in m is 1 and b is 1, and that's how I got my answer.
What's that?
Is it an emergency?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, hurry up, leave your phone here. All right. Write the equation of the line through negative 2, 3, and parallel to this line. where's my point? Negative 2, 3. All right, tell me this. What do you remember about parallel? What does that mean? Same slope. Same slope. So basically, you're gonna write a line and you already know the slope has to be the same as this one. So the slope is 3, and your point, you only have 1 this time, you don't get to pick, you only have 1. So here we go. Brennan and I are point slopers, so we're gonna use point slope. Y minus 3 equals M x minus x. So the format I used was y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, and this is my x1, y1. That's my point. Why did I use the slope of 3?
Because you already have it.
Because I already had it. It had to be parallel, right? And parallel means the slopes are the same. All right, so here we go. Y minus 3 equals 3x. Oh, is that going to be plus 6?
Yes.
So y equals 3x plus 9? This equation is parallel to this one because they have the same slope. That's what parallel means in algebra. We know what parallel means in geometry. Now the next one is very, very similar. They give us the same point. So this is my x1, y1. But I have to be perpendicular to this. Now, do you remember anything about perpendicular? Opposite, reciprocal. So perpendicular slopes are opposite. So if the original is positive, it's going to be negative and vice versa. And you flip it over. Okay? All right, so I know I need to take whatever the slope of this line is. I'm going to change its sign and flip it over. But how do I find the slope of this line? It was easy on this one. Y equals mx plus b, that's m right there. How am I going to do that for this equation?
Isolate the y.
I got to isolate the y. I got to get y by itself, just like it was here. So maybe I'll subtract 2x. So negative 4y is negative 2x plus 1. So I move the 2x to the other side.
Divide by 4.
Divide by negative 4. I gotta divide everything by negative 4. So y equals 1/2 x 2 over 4 minus 1/4. What is the slope of that line?
2.
Well, the slope of this line is 1/2. So does everybody understand? Step 1 was we had to get y by itself so that we could find the slope of this line. If we were doing parallel, we would use that number. Same slope. But we're doing perpendicular, so what does that mean? I have to do the opposite reciprocal. So turn it over and change its sign, make it negative. So what slope am I using for this problem?
Negative 2.
Negative 2 over 1 or negative 2. So now I have my slope. They gave me my point. So y minus 3 equals -2 x minus -2. Remember, this is, I'm doing it with point slope. So y minus 3 equals -2x. Oh, be careful here. That's gonna become -4, isn't it? It's a little bit tricky, there's a lot of negatives floating around there. We add 3 to both sides. This is what I came up with as my answer. Is that what you got? A couple of key things there, make sure you maybe put a little star or highlight or something. Parallel means same slope. Perpendicular means opposite reciprocal slope. Make it opposite, flip it over. Perfect. Oh my gosh, P4 done. So that will be due on what, Monday? Okay. Now, we're gonna skip number 1, we're turn the page, P5. We're gonna skip number 1 for the time being because it says solve graphically with calculator. So on Monday, we're gonna do this section and you have to have a graphing calculator in your possession, okay, on Monday. You have to have one. So beg one with somebody, borrow one, or check one out with me. I am not doing the checkout thing during class time though. You need to come in and get that done. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna check out a library calculator. You need to check it out sometime other than class time, okay? But you gotta have one on Monday. Everybody hear that? Can't do these problems without one. I'm skipping them for today, but we're doing them Monday. All right, so we're going on to number 2 then. Number 2, this just says solve using square root signs. Does anybody have any idea what in the world those directions mean? Solve using square root. Just,
It's number 2.
yep, because we're skipping number 1 till we get a calculator. So number 2, we're gonna square root both sides. That's what that means, that's what those directions mean, square root both sides. What do we get when we square root 4x squared? 2x. Very, very good. We get 2x. What do we get when we square root 25? This is where things get a little tricky. It's actually plus or minus 5. 25 has 2 square roots, positive 5 and negative 5. So when we do this, we have to put a plus or minus on one side or the other, and I usually put it with the regular number. But you gotta have a plus or minus in there. Because now we're gonna divide by 2, and how many answers are we going to get? 2. Whenever you have a squared equation, you need to have 2 answers. This exponent tells you how many answers you're gonna have. You're gonna have 2 answers, positive 5/2 and negative 5/2. Now the next problem, you might be looking at it and thinking, that looks a little harder. It really isn't. We're gonna do exactly the same thing. So we're gonna square root both sides. Don't be confused. What's the square root of x minus 3 squared? X minus 3. X minus 3. When you square in a square root, these things like cancel each other out. They're like opposites of each other. They cancel. Actually, the key word there is inverses. They're inverses of each other. So we have x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Now this is really two equations. X minus 3 equals 5. X minus 3 equals negative 5. So x either equals 8 or x equals negative 2. Double check my arithmetic. Is that right? So again, we got our two answers, just like we knew we would. We got our two answers. What about C? We'll do this one and then stop. What about C? What do you think we might want to do first? Now, be careful. You mean distribute the 3?
Yeah.
You can't distribute if the quantity is squared. Getting rid of that 3 is key. How about if we divide both sides? Can we do that? I really don't like that 3 there because it's not a perfect square. So we'll just divide it out. So now we have x minus 4 squared equals 3. Now, can we square root? So what's the square root of x minus 2 squared? Or x minus 4 squared? X minus 4. These cancel. And over here, 3 is not a perfect square, so I'm just going to have to leave it as plus or minus the square root of 3. When it was 25, I could take the square root and get 5, but when it's 3, I can't. But I still need the plus or minus, because how many answers do I need? 2. That's how I'm going to get them. This is 2 equations, but this time I'm going to write it as 4 plus or minus root 3. If you want, you can go ahead and split it up. X minus 4 equals root 3, x minus 4 equals negative root 3. But look what happens. When you add 4, can you combine those? No. And so when you add 4, you can't combine these either. So if you want to write them separately, if that makes more sense to you, it's perfectly okay. You can write them as 2 separate numbers, but because they don't combine, you can go ahead and write it as 1 with a plus or minus if you wish. You cannot do that with this one. You may have said, well, this is 4, why don't I just add 3 and say this? Well, you can start with this, but do these 2 combine? So you need to combine them. 3 plus 5, 3 minus 5, and get 2 separate answers. Here, you can write them as 2 separate if you want, but you don't have to, because they don't combine. Okay? Well, that's enough. Oh, and it's perfect timing. Okay. All right, so I'll see you on Monday. And what happens on Monday? We got